Picture this. You're working quality control in a tomato soup factory, and you notice a very strange phenomenon. You're rolling filled cans down a testing ramp, right? Suddenly, you realize that cans filled with thick, chunky soup roll down the ramp much, much slower than identical cans filled with a watery, thin soup. This surprising real-life problem creates a massive physics mystery. Think about it for a second. If both cans have the exact same size, the exact same outer metal shell, the exact same mass, and they start from the exact same height on the ramp, shouldn't gravity pull them down at the exact same rate? Why on earth would the thickness of the soup inside change the speed of the can on the outside? By the end of this explainer, you're going to understand the fundamental physics concept of rotational kinetic energy, the exact mathematical formula behind it, and exactly how to apply it to solve our soup mystery. To get there, we'll quickly cover the Great Soup Can Race, work in rotational motion, the rotational energy formula, helicopter blades as batteries, solving the soup mystery, and finally, a summary and final thought. Section 1, the Great Soup Can Race. Okay, let's dive into this by first establishing the starting line of our race. Any object, whether it's a can of soup or a giant boulder, starting from rest at the top of a ramp holds a very specific amount of energy. This is called gravitational potential energy. It's just sitting there, waiting to be converted into motion. Now, if the can simply slid down an icy, frictionless ramp without rolling at all, absolutely all of that potential energy would turn into straight-line speed. But our cans are rolling. So before we can actually solve why they move at different speeds, we need to transition away from straight-line motion, which we call translational motion, and look closely at the physics of making an object rotate. Section 2, work in rotational motion. Let's step away from the soup for a second and think of a simple example. Imagine a worker using an electric motor to spin a heavy, solid grindstone to sharpen a metal tool. When that motor kicks on, sparks fly, it gets loud, and the heavy stone spins faster and faster. Clearly, the motor had to do a whole lot of work to get that massive stone spinning from a total standstill. What's really cool here is how perfectly the math lines up. In standard translational motion, you do work by applying a force over a distance. But to get our grindstone or our soup can spinning, you do rotational work by applying torque over an angle, which we represent with the Greek letter theta. It's the exact same concept, just applied to a circle. Section 3, the rotational energy formula. Now that we've got the basic idea of rotational work down, let's see how this builds our fundamental formula. Because where does all that work energy actually go once the object is spinning? Well, it goes right into the object's movement. By mathematically substituting our rotational variables into the standard work energy theorem, we arrive at this beautiful, highly useful formula. Rotational kinetic energy equals 1/2 times I times omega squared. Now you might be wondering, wait, is this completely different from the regular straight-line kinetic energy we already know? And the answer is a resounding no. They are exact mathematical analogs. They both represent the energy of motion. The only difference is that translational is moving in a straight line, while rotational is spinning. Let's look a little closer at our new formula. Omega replaces standard velocity. It's simply how fast the object is spinning. And I stands for the moment of inertia. This is a crucial concept. Moment of inertia is literally just the rotational version of mass. It tells us how difficult it is to change an object's spinning motion based not just on how heavy it is, but on how that mass is distributed around the center point. Section 4, helicopter blades as batteries. Let's make this a bit easier to grasp with a real-life analogy that proves just how much sheer power is hidden inside this equation. We're going to look at rescue helicopters. A typical small rescue helicopter has 4 massive blades. Because of their sheer size and speed, when those blades are rotating at 300 revolutions per minute, they store a whopping 526,000 joules of pure rotational kinetic energy before the helicopter even lifts an inch off the ground. And this brilliantly illustrates how helicopter blades act as actual energy batteries, known in physics as flywheels. Because of strict weight limits, a helicopter's engine is honestly too small to supply the energy needed to both lift the chopper and violently spin up those blades at the exact same time. The energy absolutely must be stored in the spinning blades prior to takeoff. If the blades slow down to a critical level in midair, the pilot has to perform a fascinating physics trick. They literally sacrifice altitude, trading in their gravitational potential energy to spin the blades back up and avoid a crash. Section 5. Solving the soup mystery. All right, let's connect all of this back to real life and finally solve our great soup can factory mystery. Armed with our formula, we're ready to hit the factory floor. So the absolutely crucial point to remember here is that systems conserve their total mechanical energy. At the top of the ramp, our soup can has a fixed, strict budget of gravitational potential energy. As it rolls down, that energy budget has to get split into two distinct bank accounts: translational kinetic energy, which is what moves the can forward, and a rotational kinetic energy, which spins it. This is a zero-sum game, guys. Whatever energy gets poured into spinning the can is effectively stolen directly from its forward speed. Let's break down the race results. If a can was magically frictionless and just slid down the ramp without spinning at all, it would easily take first place, because 100% of its energy would go into forward speed. Now for the soup, when the thin, watery soup rolls down, the metal can rotates, but the liquid inside largely just slides along within the shell. It doesn't spin much, but the thick, chunky soup, it physically sticks to the inside of the can. It's forced to rotate with the metal shell. Because all that heavy, thick soup is rotating, it demands a massive amount of rotational kinetic energy. That violently drains the energy budget, leaving practically nothing for actual forward speed. And that is exactly why the thick soup comes in dead last. Now wait, this is actually really important because it brings up a super common student confusion. What if we aren't racing hollow cans filled with liquid, but completely solid cylinders, like a massive wooden log and a tiny little glass marble? Well, if you run this test, just like Galileo did centuries ago, the math reveals something totally stunning. If you plug solid cylinders into our energy equation, their mass and radius completely cancel out on both sides, meaning every single solid cylinder, regardless of how heavy or wide it is, will roll down an incline at the exact same rate. Section 6, Summary and Final Thought. Before we completely wrap up, let's quickly summarize our key takeaways so we can lock these concepts into our brains. We've seen that rotational work is done by applying torque over an angle. We've learned the powerful formula for rotational kinetic energy, 1/2 I omega squared, and verified it's an exact analog to straight-line energy. We saw how helicopter blades act as mechanical flywheels to store that energy like a battery. And finally, we totally cracked the soup mystery by proving that making an object's mass spin actively drains energy away from its straight-line speed. I want to leave you with one final, practical example to really test your understanding. If you throw a yo-yo downward, it gains tremendous rotational speed. How exactly does that invisible spinning energy transform as it violently fights gravity to climb all the way back up its string to your hand? Think about this beautiful energy transformation as you get ready for our next lecture, where we're going to dive into angular momentum and its incredible conservation laws. You definitely won't want to miss it.